Good morning, Broncos fans. This is Legends of Mile High, and I am Thomas Hall, coming to talk to you a little bit about the coaching situation that we find ourselves in as we watch the Broncos. It's been a rough year, so stay tuned to hear about some options, potential options, and if, it really is an if, Nathaniel Hackett is going to be here next year or not. That's the big question. They have stuck with him through the whole season when many of us fans and analysts thought that he may be let go uh, before the midseason even hit. Really, so that's the big question to start out. But just before I get started, remember to take the time to subscribe to Mile High Huddle YouTube, like the show, tell your friends and family. Let's get some more people watching this because we love to blend a little bit of history and current events here. So make sure you get the Broncos fans out there, especially the ones that like to hear about the old timers, into the show, and let's get some people in here to make some comments. So we do already have some already. We've got Luke coming in. Good morning or afternoon, and that's right. We have a lot of people that watch this show from England and other parts of the world. So it is afternoon in other areas. So thank you for coming in, Luke. Money More. Good morning, dudes. What's this if business in the title? Hackett is gone after this gone this offseason. Yeah, I would like to say yes, but part of me has a little bit of a doubt whether or not they're going to pull the trigger on that. I know that the owners have a lot of money and they are willing to do what it takes, but that's a big chunk of change to send him packing after 1 year that they're going to still have to pay him. So there is a little bit of doubt, and frankly, it doesn't seem like he has lost the locker room. It doesn't seem like I mean, his team is still fighting, even though they're not playing very good and they've lost a lot of games. They're still, they've they've lost most of their games by one score, and the team hasn't quit. So there's that as well to consider. Is he well liked? Is he just a little bit away from getting over that hump? So those are things to consider. Paul Swallow, good morning from Spokane, Washington. I love Spokane, Washington. I grew up in Oregon, and I spent some time in Spokane. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So welcome. Thanks for jumping in from Spokane. And then Kathy's coming in. Thank you. It's been a while since I seen you on live show. Made it to the live show thanks to Twitter. Well, I'm glad you made it, Kathy. I enjoy interacting with you on these comments when you do come in, and I've seen you on Twitter a few times. So thank you for that. You always have some great comments and some good analysis. So appreciate you guys all showing up this morning. So let's talk about Nathaniel Hackett. He, from the eye test, he's not done a very good job. I mean, we've sit there and watch him have his game management woes. He had to bring somebody in to help him with that. So that's one strike against him. It seems like he's not using the offense correctly. The scheme he implemented doesn't seem to be working. He doesn't seem to put the players in the right position to succeed. I mean, obviously, Jerry Jeudy just finally moved to the X receiver, which he probably should have been there all along. We'll see. We'll see the Arizona game coming up, whether or not that's true. But he had a heck of a game last week, and people are starting to get back on the Jerry Jeudy bandwagon, so to speak, after 3 touchdowns. So there are some issues with Hackett for sure. Clayton Huron, thank you for coming in. Good morning. Smash the like button and share, guys. What kind of coffee you all drinking this morning? Actually, I drank my coffee, so I don't have one this morning, but it's usually just regular old black coffee. So thanks for coming in, Clayton. Appreciate it. Kathy coming in with another comment. If the last 4 games are going to end well, not even winning, but with good note, like against KC, Hackett is coming back just because of all the injuries and first-year coach. Yeah, that's what puts doubt in my mind. So thank you for saying that. I don't, it's kind of a coin flip for me, but you're right. I mean, if the team finishes well, say they win the last 4 games, what do you do with Hackett? And I'm going to tell you, it's not unreasonable to think that they can't win. I mean, they've got the Arizona Cardinals coming up. Russell Wilson may or may not play. that could be a win if they play. I mean, they beat the 49ers. I was there live watching them. They played really well. The offense wasn't very good, but that 49ers defense is a good team. So they can step up and play. They've got some people coming back. Randy Gregory might play. Billy Turner might play. So you got some injured players coming back. It's not out of the question that they can't sneak out three wins. I mean, I have my doubts with the way they played, but I mean, you play Kansas City at the final week of the season, which it probably won't mean much. I mean, Kansas City is probably going to be in the playoffs with a set seed by then, so they may not even play all their starters for the whole game. So it's not out of the question. So if Hackett does win the final four, just say, or three of the final four, that's going to put some doubt in the owners and George Payton's mind whether or not to get rid of him. And, maybe some fans too. And it really depends on how they play, right? If they win and their offense is clicking and everything's going well, then, that's going to make people think, maybe Hackett deserves another shot. Now, if he loses the last, or he loses all but maybe one of the last 4 games, then I think he's a goner. I don't think they can finish the season like that. I don't care, what the team around him, whether they kind of not quit or they, they rally around him or whatever. If he can't win in the NFL, then he's gone. And that's my thoughts. So we'll see. These last 4 games are going to be big for his future. Michael Ronquillo coming in. Thank you for coming in. Good morning, Thomas Hall and Legends of Mile High. Go Broncos. Appreciate you coming in. It's great to see you on here live. Thank you very much, Michael, for supporting the show. Dom, also coming. Good morning, Thomas, Scott, and Broncos country. Denver Broncos for life. Thanks, Dom. I appreciate you you'll be here almost every morning. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments. It's great to see you on here live. So let's keep going with this. So say Hackett does get the boot. I mean, it's a pretty real possibility. I mean, there's very little question about if they get rid of him, people aren't gonna cry very much about it. I don't think fans are going to be happy. I think the team will be happy. I mean, they're tired of losing. They bring somebody in who can fix it. So who can fix it? Well, let's first kick out the notions of some of these like long shots, right? Mike Tomlin. People have kicked Mike Tomlin around. They think, oh, what if Pittsburgh fires him? Let's pick him up. I would take him in a heartbeat if I was the Broncos, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to get rid of Mike Tomlin. That the Rooneys are very good at finding coaches, and they stick with the coaches for a long time. I mean, the legend Chuck Noll took a while. He was struggling, and they finally gave him the boot and brought in Bill Cowher. I would be absolutely shocked if they let Mike Tomlin go. So let's not focus on Mike Tomlin. We got a comment in here about Sean Payton. I think that's a pretty low possibility. So thank you for coming in. The question was, hey, Thomas, what do you think about Sean Payton possibly coaching the Broncos next season? I don't think it's going to happen, only because you got to give up some draft picks. I mean, he retired early from the Saints. They're going to require some sort of compensation if you bring him in. And I don't think they're willing to do that. I mean, they have very few draft picks as it is. And I would say that's a very, 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 very long shot to get Sean Payton in. And whether or not he wants to come in and do it is another question. He probably wants to go coach some team that looks like they're right on the cusp. And from watching the Broncos, I think they may be on the cusp of doing something better with the right coach, but many other people don't. And the funny thing is, I actually just did an analysis about teams in the last decade who have lost one score games, a predominant amount of their games in one score losses. And there's some good news and bad news. Sometimes it means they are about ready to take that next step. Sometimes it's not. So look for that coming out probably today or tomorrow. So this team, without the injuries, could be a lot better for sure. So Sean Payton might think about it, but I don't think the Broncos can. So let's talk about some options that are realistic options for this team. And Scott, I think you have a great point. I feel like expectations were different for this team than previous coaches. Big win now investment. I agree, Scott. Thank you for that. I mean, that's what makes this season so agonizing and makes Hackett a more easily one and done. I mean, they went out and invested in a quarterback, and this team was poised to take the next step after having won 7 games with a poor quarterback situation. And here they are, only 3 wins. So that's a good point. Dr. Van Norstrand, thank you. Appreciate the comment. I feel like a lot of people calling for Hackett's head were projecting this team to win 12 plus games and a Super Bowl this year. Got to find a scapegoat. Yeah, again, that's just it. I mean, we were expecting something much better. You took a team with essentially the same roster and a better quarterback situation on paper coming in. I mean, I know Russell Wilson struggled, but he's a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock for sure. We all expected this team to be a playoff contender at the very least. I thought they might be able to win 10, 11 games, and that was my prediction. I was way off. I was actually way off on most of my predictions. But, the problem with the team was they started out pretty poorly, and then they started getting injured. And after a while, injuries, I don't care how good of a team you have, if injuries take their toll in the NFL, you're not going to be winning. It is so hard to win when your star players are gone. And that's what happened. I mean, Randy Gregory, their big signing, he was gone. The offensive line has been, shuffled around. Not one player has on that offensive line has played every game. And the projected starting offensive line didn't play at all together, really. So just when Billy Turner was coming back, Garrett Bowles was gone. And then you have injuries, across the board in the secondary, not just on IR, but man, a lot of missed injuries. So coming out of the gate, they were poor, and then the injuries piled up. So there are excuses to make for sure, but I still 3 wins after after this many games and having won 7 with Teddy Bridgewater. I think it's just a huge disappointment, and there's a lot of excuses to be made, but the problem is the team starts with the head coach, and he has had some struggles for sure, and they're basic struggles. I mean, the team doesn't play fundamental football all the time. It totally, they're leading the league in penalties, so they're undisciplined, dumb mistakes. I mean, false starts at home. It's just ridiculous. So there are a lot of issues with Hackett, but my choice for this team, and I know that he got let go in midseason and wasn't very good, but it's Frank Reich. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a very good head coach, actually. I think he did really well with the Colts, with kind of a rough quarterback situation through there. And, Jim Irsay is just not a very predictable person, and he's made some pretty poor football decisions, to say the least. I mean, he let the legend Peyton Manning go. Thank you for that. The Broncos got to witness some great years with Peyton Manning, but I think he makes poor decisions, and that was one. Getting rid of him was one of them. So I think Frank Reich is actually one of the better candidates. So, and that's my top choice, really. I think he can come in and be a real head coach for this team who knows how to put a strategy together and have that play out on the field. He's excellent at finding coaching talent. I mean, look at his offensive and defensive coordinator, both head coaches. The Eagles are doing incredible, Sirianni. And, the Bears look promising. I know they're not winning, but I think they're a well-coached team. So he has an eye for coaching talent. I'm going to stop and grab a couple comments. Jeremy coming in. Thank you for coming in this morning. Morning, Thomas. Yeah, our expectations, such a big part of the disappointment. Yeah, it definitely is. Thank you for coming in, Jeremy. Thank you for being a loyal listener to the show. I really appreciate it. You always have some great comments and make people think about things when they're looking through the comments here. So thank you very much. Ruben is coming in. Man, we better not go back to Teddy. I don't think so. I mean, thank you for coming in. I appreciate coming from Facebook on that comment. There's no way, unless something drastic happens, Russell Wilson retires, and then the Broncos are like stuck with the last resort. They're staying with Russell Wilson. They're going to stay with Russell Wilson for the next 3 to 5 years. I just don't see them trying to get rid of him. And I think under the right coaching staff, he's going to be a better player. And maybe he's not going to be the top 5 anymore. Maybe he has declined a little bit, but with the right coaching, and that's why I like Frank Reich. I think he would get the most out of Russell Wilson. He'll know how to handle, that kind of Russell Wilson, stardom attitude that he may have. I still think Russell Wilson's, plays hard. He may be a little quirky. I don't care what he does off the field. He needs to start winning. And I think Frank Reich can bring that. And these are the reasons, other than what I just said, that he's great at finding offensive and defensive coordinator talent. He's good at finding coaching talent. I think he'll come in and put the right coaches in place to make this work. But he's a West Coast offense guy, right? And he can probably take his system and just tweak what they've already learned to do it right. And so bringing in a head coach that's just going to like take the system and tear it down and start over. I mean, that's rough on players that have been in multiple systems, and that's what's been happening. I mean, watch the Broncos go through different coaches, and every time it seems like they bring in a new system. Frank Reich's system is similar. I would say they're, Hackett and Zach Taylor and stuff. They're, their West Coast offense is different than what we've expected, but I think he can tweak it enough because he's a good coach. He really is. And I think he can bring in the right offensive coordinator. And I said Dan Pritchard from the Bengals. I think he's a quarterback coach who's a good option. I mean, and that's another person that would come in as the offensive coordinator. He's done really good job with Joe Burrow. I think he's improved him in the right areas. And I think that their offensive system is even closer to what Nathaniel Hackett was trying to run. And whether or not we like the scheme or not, I mean, let's face it, if it's run correctly, the West Coast offense run correctly, and the zone blocking scheme is run correctly, that can win in the NFL. We've seen it happen historically and in the present. So, wholesale changes shouldn't make a big difference. Dan Hall coming in, fellow Hall. If Hackett were to get fired and they were to go after Dan Quinn, any chance he wouldn't be interested after he passed on him last year? Great job, Thomas. Love your show. Well, thank you, fellow Hall. I appreciate the comment coming in from Facebook. I try to make the show fun and interesting. So, I think Dan Quinn would be interested. I know that people are out, they're trying to drum up this kind of drama and say, oh, no one wants to take the Broncos job because of the mess and blah, blah, blah. Russell Wilson's corny and hard to coach or whatever they are saying. I think it's nonsense. Great facilities. This ownership group is poised to spend as much money as it takes. I think, it's a good situation. There is, if they can keep the players healthy, it's a pretty solid roster. A few moves that they can make in the offseason with the money they can spend. There's a good salary cap situation, and it's been a good salary cap situation for a while. I know that when Russell Wilson's contract really starts to kick in, it might make it a little more difficult. But I don't think, there would be very few people that would turn it down unless a coach really wants to come in fresh and have a GM of their choice and things like that. But Peyton's a good drafter. He's made some mistakes. I think this is an attractive job, regardless of what the pundits out there are saying, because just what I said, there's plenty of money to be had from the owners. There's some good players on this roster. George Payton is, taking a few nicks here and there, but otherwise he's a good drafter and he's made some good moves. And everybody's second guessing the Russell Wilson trade, but I think 90% of the GMs out there would have made that trade to be too. So, and we saw what Russell Wilson can do when he on this last week when he's actually playing well, and if the offense is working for him. I think he's still got a lot of good football left in him. So, and maybe I'm wrong, and I have been wrong before, but I think with the right coaching staff in place, with the right scheme, he's going to get back to close to his old self. So we'll see what happens. But I'm okay with Dan Quinn coming in. I think he's a good head coaching candidate. He's got his issues just like everybody else, and I've talked about him on here, but I think he's probably in the top 3 of the coaching searches for the Denver Broncos when it comes to next season, offseason, when looking for a head coach. He's going to be right in the mix for sure. Another one that I think has been thrown out there that I don't think is going to happen is Jim Harbaugh. I think he would be a perfect fit, though. I think he would get the best out of Russell Wilson. He's a no-nonsense. It'd be a disciplined team. He turned around that 49ers team immediately when he took over. So I think it's a good option, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's going to stay in Michigan. I don't think he wants to come in here. I think he'd want to come in with more power over all the roster decisions and, offseason free agency and stuff like that. So with Peyton already in place, I don't think they're going to, I don't think he want to take it. I think he's going to stick in with Michigan. He's done a great job there. So now there's a couple other coaches that, they could go first-time head coach. And that I've talked about retreads versus first-timers, and again, people want to get that coach that's had some experience. Well, if they failed miserably in their past tenure, then don't bring them in. Like people are talking about Vance Joseph again. Please, no. Do not hire Vance Joseph as a head coach of the Denver Broncos again. Yes, he had roster problems. He was not a very good coach. He didn't have what it took upstairs, in my mind, to make it happen as a leader of an entire team. I'm going to stop and grab this comment from Michael Ronquillo. Tom Nalen for Hall of Fame. Let's keep his name going for the NFL Hall of Fame. Go Broncos. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I am a huge Tom Nalen for the Hall of Fame fan and promoter, and I'm trying to make as much buzz. For some reason, the voters just they don't have as much love for Tom Nalen as I do, and I think he's deserving of it. I've talked about it. There's I talked about it on the podcast. I've written about it. He has what it takes to be a Hall of Famer. Problem was he was in Denver. The voters are mostly watching East Coast, but he was as good as Kevin Mawai was. Kevin Mawai's in the Hall of Fame, and so should he. So thank you for that, Michael. I appreciate it. If you really want to support him, I'm selling a shirt, hoodie of that I designed myself to try and drum up business for putting up. Who knows? Maybe if we get enough, put up a billboard for him. I don't know, but there's something going to happen. So let me know. It's on Twitter, and let's get him in the Hall of Fame. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. So going back to talking about the coaching, there's a couple first timers out there, and I know that the fans are going to be like, don't hire a first timer, right? Because we saw Hackett, we saw Fangio, we saw Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph should be scratched off the list, but it's not about first timer versus retread or second time head coach. It is get the right coach. That is the thing. They made the wrong decision. Vance Joseph was not the right decision. Should have been Kyle Shanahan. But there's that, and people are talking about how John Elway's really set this team up for failure and everything else. That decision wasn't his. He wanted to bring him in. That Mike Ellis at the time made that decision. He had bad blood with Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's father. He didn't want him, so they end up with Vance Joseph when they should have went with Shanahan. And look, Shanahan's done a great job. He's had some struggles. He's had some poor seasons there in the 49ers, but that had a lot to do with injuries and bad timing on injuries. But he's been to the Super Bowl, and he's got that team playing well with Brock Purdy. So it's not about whether or not you need to bring in an experienced guy. And again, like, people look back when there was that Josh McDaniels debacle and he destroyed the team. But you brought in John Fox and oh, look what John Fox did. He turned it all around. Well, John Fox kind of turned it around. It was Peyton Manning that really came in and made that team a winner. So Jeremy, word on the street is Butch Berry's living on borrowed time. Yeah, they're going to have to clean house. Even if Hackett stays, they're going to have to get rid of some coaches. He made some poor coaching decisions, I think. Not Evero. That was a great one. I think Evero's done a great job. But yeah, getting rid of Munchak for Butch Berry was a poor decision. That offensive line has, even when they were healthy, did not look good. In my opinion, I think they've not used the zone blocking scheme to its full potential. I think they started out with trying to run a mix of power and zone blocking. That just wasn't a good fit. And I just think that was a terrible decision. But yeah, there's going to be some coaches gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Barry's gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Stooks is gone. I think the special teams has been pretty poor. They came out of the gate looking pretty good, but I'm on the fence with Stooks. You think about it, all these injuries that have happened, You've had to bring, the people that were special teams, really special teams players are now, playing more on the offensive defense. So, I mean, there is some leeway to be had when you're talking about the special teams and Stuk. So maybe give him another shot, but it's been pretty miserable. So there's going to be some assistant coaches gone for sure. And that's the other reason why I like Reich. I think he'd come in and know that the defense was well coached, and he'll keep Evero around. And I think that would be a smart choice instead of coming in and just getting rid of everybody and starting over it. I think that was Hackett's first mistake. He came in and got rid of really good coaches for the coaches of his choice, and he picked the wrong ones. And that is what I'm talking about when it comes to leadership. It's not just about X's and O's. It is being able to identify coaching talent to help put the strategy out on the field. And Hackett, that he wasn't very good at that. So that's the first strike. And that's why I think Dan Reeves was a great coach. You can talk about Dan Reeves and how he used Elway and how he kind of wasted his early career and, his failings in the Super Bowl. But Dan Reeves had a great eye for talented assistant coaches. And many of them went on to have great success as head coaches and, throughout the NFL. So, that's the thing. And Reeves also was able to take his strategy and put it on the field. They played it. They ran his strategy and it worked. I mean, they got to 3 Super Bowls with it. They were just outmatched most of the time with talent. I think they should have won the Giants that Super Bowl, but the other, 49ers, they were just way too talented for them to match up. But that's what makes a great head coach. It's not just X's and O's that people keep talking about. It is leadership, eye for coaches, bringing that all together so that on the field you see it happen. And Hackett's not that, and that's why I think he's gone. I think any smart personnel or any smart football person can look at Hackett and say, yeah, he wasn't able to do what was necessary to make a winning season, even with the injuries. So, Alvin Cly. I have not seen you coming in here, Alvin Cly, from comments, but I really appreciate you jumping in. Thank you for that. Wow, great insight and knowledge. Thank you, Thomas Hall. I mean, a little bit self-serving having you compliment me, and I read it on the air here, but I really appreciate it. I mean, all of us to do, we come in here, we, try and do a good job on these shows. So it's really great to hear when someone says stuff like that to us. So, follow all the other Mile High Huddle YouTube shows there. The live shows are fun. You get to interact. And I know I'm here by myself. Other shows, they have a couple people interacting on them. So they're a lot of fun. So make sure you check those out as well. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. Jeremy Sean's coming back in with a good comment here. I think Peyton was banking on a veteran QB to steady things while the young coaches found their footing along with an easier early schedule. Clearly that didn't happen, and then injuries happened. And that's absolutely right. I agree with that comment in the fact that, yeah, that it should have been that way. Russ should have been that steadying factor with young coaches, but they didn't play in the preseason, which was a mistake. And at the time, I thought it was okay. I thought it would be okay, but it really wasn't. They came out of the gate terrible. They played a Seahawks team that they should have been able to beat. They lost by a point or whatever. And, that kind of started out slow. Then you're right, injuries happened. But the problem was Hackett and the coaches didn't fit the offense for Russ to give him that opportunity, in my opinion. I don't think that the scheme was run the way it was supposed to be, and I don't think it was I don't think it was a fit for Russ. And Dan Hall coming in again for Dan Reeves for the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. I think he's a Hall of Famer. And I know he probably won't get in, but he's been close. He's been nominated a few times. His win totals and his ability to get teams to the Super Bowl, at least. I mean, he took Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl. And, if you know a history about the Atlanta Falcons, they weren't very good. And he got them into that. He should be loved in Atlanta, in my opinion. Should be loved in Denver as well. I know that there's a little bit of bad blood about Elway and blah, 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 but he's a dang good coach. And one of the better ones in the history of the NFL. So, yeah, I think he's, should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he'll make it. He's a good one. And I'm maybe a little bit Broncos biased when it comes to Hall of Fame, But I can look at players and say I don't think they're Hall of Famers, even if they play for the Broncos or they coach for the Broncos. I mean, there's a lot of people out there slinging names around for the Broncos of the Hall of Fame. I don't think they deserve it, but I think Dan Reeves does, and so does Tom Nalen. I think I think, in my opinion, after Randy Gradishar, Tom Nalen is the next in line of the biggest snubs for the Hall of Fame. So Gradishar, hopefully next year, and hopefully we get some buzz going for Tom Nalen and get him people talking about him. I want to get people talking about what he did, and that's the purpose. Let's get people talking about Tom Nalen and see if we can get the voters to kind of reassess his candidacy. Alvin Cly, thank you so much. I really appreciate the super chat. This is great. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for being here on this early morning Friday. Always a Bronco. Russ is not a Manning, however. Let's get the right coaches in. Absolutely. And I appreciate that comment. He's not a Manning. Manning came in and had a little bit different attitude, but they both work hard. I mean, Russell Wilson's a hard worker. He wants to win, just like Manning did. But the difference was Manning came in and he wanted a specific offense that fit him, and the coaches did it. And that's the one thing about John Fox that I appreciated is he didn't stick with his tried and true method. He said, okay, Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer coming in, let's put his offense in and let him run it the way he wants to. The difference was Hackett didn't do that. I mean, I know Russ has the hand in some of the plays and, building the playbook and all of that, but Hackett should have said, that's not how we should do this. It doesn't fit your skill set. I mean, he's been around long enough that they could have easily, made those choices, but he didn't do it. And that's the problem. I mean, he should have said, listen, let's install the offense that fits you and not one that you want to run. Because I mean, I know that anybody, maybe we don't know our strengths well enough to go out there and build something that fits us. I mean, at work or anywhere else, it's sometimes you need that mentor or that leader to say, no, this is a better way of doing things. And Hackett couldn't do that. So there is a difference between them, but I think the right offense, you'll see Russ come back around, and he's been injured. He's been suffering from injuries all season too. I'm not making excuses for him. He's had some poor play. Definitely. He's missed open receivers, but that can change with a different attitude towards Russell Wilson playing on the field. Different offense, different way of doing things. And obviously the O-line has not helped. There was some rough patches with the O-line, and we saw it early in the Chiefs game. I mean, the rookie Wattenberg just was like a sieve, letting people run through there. So you can't blame it all on Russ. Get a good offensive line, a good running game, move the pocket, do some things that Russell Wilson's good at, get him out, rolling out, things like that. Then you're going to see the old Russell Wilson coming back. So, yeah, I know we didn't get into a whole lot of coaches, so I'm going to bring one name up after I read this comment from Jeremy Shawn. Nalen showed how important a great center is to team success. It's not shocking we are seeing what happens when your center struggles. That is the point I have tried to make over and over again. People kind of think about the offensive line in the 97, 98 season, right? 97, you had Gary Zimmerman, you had Schlereth, you had Tony Jones. I mean, it was one of the most iconic lines in history. And you talk about the best offensive lines, that's one of them that comes up. And then in 98, Zimmerman was gone, brought in Harry Swain at right tackle. Brian Habib was gone, and they still got Terrell Davis over 2,000 yards. And then as it progressed, you saw Tom Nalen was the only one left. Schlereth was gone. Tony Jones was gone. And you got Dan Neal on the line. You've got other players that, people don't remember who their names, and they're still churning out 1,000-yard seasons. And it was because Tom Nalen was the centerpiece of it all. And that's why he was so good. And that's why voters need to go back and look at Tom Nalen's career. They're just writing him off as, oh, that was a great offensive line. Well, yeah, it was for 2 years. And then it was not. It was a great offensive line because Tom Nalen did it. And that was back when they made the line calls. It's not the quarterback doing it. Tom Nalen was super smart. He knew everything. He knew how to play the game with angles. He knew how to make the calls. He was tough as nails, and he was probably the most technically sound center of all time. If you think about it, I mean, he was listed at 286, but I think people would say he was around 275, sometimes even smaller. He was a small center going up against big, strong athletic players, and he would win. So he did that with great technique. And Olin Kreutz from the Bears, who's also been nominated, gets nominated for the Hall of Fame, said he used to put his tape on and watch it so that he could get better. So there was a lot to learn. And you're right. I mean, the Broncos need to get a better center. And you saw the difference. Lloyd Cushenberry, I thought, was going to be a great draft pick. I thought Lloyd Cushenberry is going to be a third-round steal. That didn't work out. So another prediction of mine that was bad, and that happens. But you saw when he went down and Graham Glasgow came in and started on the center, things started to change. It started to get better. He was better at that position, better at doing this job than Wayne Cushenberry was. So the Broncos need to invest in a great center. And if they could get another Tom Nalen, man, I mean, there's never going to be another Tom Nalen, but somewhere close, that would be wonderful. So we'll see how that happens. We'll see if they can. But they're going to have to make some wholesale changes on the offensive line, and you're not going to be able to change the entire offensive line in one offseason. It's just the way it is, and you can't have a great player at every spot. You can't with a salary cap. But if they can get lucky in the draft, they can make a couple free agents acquisitions that pan out. I mean, they could easily replace 3 players on that line, and hopefully do better. So Bradley Conger. I haven't seen you on here. Appreciate you coming in. Honestly, Russ is more of a John Elway type player. Depends on a strong running game and then play action, boots plays down the field. It works fantastic when you can get it clicking and have the players. I agree with the second part of that. I may not agree. I mean, John Elway was one of a kind. The guy could throw the ball anywhere, do he can throw the ball in any way, shape, or form you wanted. He had ultra talent, but you're right. He didn't start really coming out of his, really start to bring out all of his talents together in one until he got a great offensive around him. And, that started happening before Mike Shanahan came in. You look at John Elway's career and, he struggled, statistically speaking, for quite a while. I mean, his early prime years were kind of, I would say, statistically speaking, were a little bit wasted. I mean, they still got 3 Super Bowls. But once that offense that came in, that came in around him, that was implemented, West Coast offense that was implemented back when Wade Phillips was the head coach, you really saw it take off. And his best seasons, all except one, came later in his life. And he's really the only quarterback in history to have that many great seasons later in your career. I know Tom Brady is, but I'm talking about retired quarterbacks. Late in your career, that many great seasons late in your career compared to what you were doing before. And you take a look at Dan Marino's career. He had great seasons early on, and then he just took a nosedive as he got older. So they came in at the same time. They retired almost the same time. Marino had one more year after that, but it's night and day difference later in their career. And it could be, Marino got hurt. Don't get me wrong. Like he, ruptured his Achilles and was wearing a special shoe just to basically keep him moving correctly. So, there was injuries. Elway, suffered some, but nothing major, although he played his entire career without an ACL. So that's, I appreciate that comment, though. I think you're right, though. The latter part of that, get Russell Wilson into the right position to succeed. And that's what the head coaches are supposed to do. And Hackett didn't do it. And that's why we're talking about whether or not he's going to be here. So, we are getting close to the end of this podcast, so I'll just bring up the one last name that I wanted to bring up, which was one of my candidates last season for first timers, and that's Brian Callahan. I like him because I think he's got a good football mind, but he's also been in Denver, right? He was there in 2015, and he knows the winning culture that Denver used to have, right? I think some people come in. Hackett came in. He doesn't seem to be saying the right things. And I know that maybe what he says, on the podium is different than what he thinks. But to come out and not care about the losing streak with the Chiefs and not really caring about the rivalries with the Raiders, I want somebody that bleeds orange and blue, right? Like somebody that has that Bronco winning mentality from the Pat Bowlen days to come in and coach this team. And that's kind of why I like Brian Callahan. I mean, obviously he's got to prove it on the field. He's got to have, everything else. He's got to bring in the right coaches and whatnot, but that's a good start. And I liked him last year. And I think he's going to get a head coaching shot this year based on what Cincinnati's doing. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason to say the least. So another comment here quickly about the offensive line from Jeremy. The big mistake was letting Chris Cooper walk. He could have made an easy transition to the zone scheme. Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a strange thing to get rid of talented coaches to bring in your own guys. And I understand that you want to do that, but don't. I mean, if you're buying a business and you come in and you take out all the leaders that made it successful to replace them with people that don't know what they're doing. I mean, you're gonna have a rough patch for sure. So that's kind of the way I see it. Man, Munchak, Cooper, good offensive line, coaches, and that's what it takes is somebody to get them in the right position and make it work. So I appreciate that comment. Michael Ronquillo, I'm going to read yours because we're going to wind down the show now. Great show today. Thomas Hall, Legend of Mile High, go Broncos. Exactly. Let's watch what happens over these last 4 games. Unfortunately, for some reason, I can't watch the Broncos game this weekend. It's not going to be played in my area, which is a surprise. I've been watching it all year, and I'm really disappointed, but I'll catch it on Game Pass, and we'll see. But there's winnable games at the end. So let's see what happens. I really, the funny thing is I was just kind of thinking about the Seahawks loss last night. I was like, they could end up with the same record, Seahawks and the Broncos. If the Seahawks have a fairly tough schedule going out, and if they could win lose their last 3 and Broncos win their last 4, it'll both be it was 7 wins. So we'll see what happens. I doubt it, but I'm not a big Seahawks fan. Really don't like them. So going back to the AFC West days when the Seahawks were in the AFC West, started that whole bad blood tradition. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the comments. I think it was a great discussion, and I look forward to next Friday when we jump back into some other topic that is fun and Broncos related. So thank you very much for joining, and have a great day, Broncos fans.